Hello everyone. Today we will deal with crystal field theory. Crystal field theory is the third theory that decides how the bonding will take place in the coordination compounds. This theory was given by Hans Bethe and Van Vleck. They both gave the crystal field theory. The important points of this theory are: the first point says that according to crystal field theory, the metal-ligand bond is considered to be completely ionic in nature or electrostatic in nature. Electrostatic or ionic in nature means metal will acquire a positive charge, ligand will acquire a negative charge, and as a result of which they form the metal-ligand complex. So this theory considered the metal-ligand bond to be ionic or electrostatic in nature, and this is similar to as in case of the crystal. For example, if you take a crystal of sodium chloride, there is presence of positive ion and there is a presence of negative ion. Together they form a crystal. And this is the reason this theory is known as crystal field theory or is called as CFT. So the first point says metal ligand bond to be ionic. So if the ligand, if we consider the ligands can be both. The ligands can be ionic or they may be neutral. If the ligands are ionic, the ligands will have what type of charge? They are negative or they may be positive also. Okay, but positive ligands are rarely found. Now if we consider that if the ligand is anionic in nature, then the metal will be cationic in nature. Then only there will be the formation of a metal ligand bond, that is metal ligand ionic bond. If we consider the ligand to be neutral, then in the neutral ligand, the negative dipole of the neutral ligand will be attracted towards the metal cation, resulting in the formation of metal ligand ionic bond. So as I said that there is the metal ligand bond to be ionic or electrostatic as in case of crystal like sodium chloride. And this is the reason the name CFT is given. Now ligands can be both. If the ligands are anionic, then they will be attracted towards the cationic metal ion, and as a result of which the metal ligand ionic bond is formed. And if it is neutral, then the negative dipole will be attracted. Second, this theory considered the effect of ligand. This theory considered the effect of ligand on the energies of the d orbitals, on the energy of the d orbitals. Now you know that the d orbitals are 5 in number. Those are dxy, dyz, dzx, dx square, y square and dz square. So according to the second point, consider the effect of ligand on the energy of the d orbitals. Now in the absence of ligand, when there is no ligand, all the d orbitals, all the 5 d orbitals will have same energy, and therefore they are said to be in a degenerate state. Okay, they are said to be in the degenerate state when there is no ligand, so their energy will be same. There will be no change in their energy. Now if some metal ion is there and around which if negative charge is also present. If around a metal ion a negative ion is present, but this negative ion is distributed in a spherical symmetrical field. If it is present in a symmetrical field means it is equally distributed around the metal ion. Then also the energy of the d orbitals will be degenerate. It will not cause any effect onto it. Okay. So there are two cases: in the absence of ligand and in the presence of spherical symmetrical field. In both the cases, the energy of all the 5 d orbitals will be degenerate. It will remain same. But in case if some ligand is present around the metal atom, then this degeneracy will split. Okay, that I will take in the next slide. So if around the metal some ligand is present, then in that case the degeneracy of the d orbitals, the degeneracy of the d orbitals of the metal, the degeneracy of the d orbitals of the metal will going to split. The degeneracy will not remain the same, it will going to change. And as a result of this splitting, it gave rise to the crystal field theory. So crystal field theory says that the bond will be ionic, first of all. Second, if the ligands are present around the metal, then the d orbital's energy, there will be some splitting into them. Okay. Now this splitting of the d orbitals that is taking place in the presence of ligand depend upon the crystal field that is provided by the ligand. Okay, and this crystal field which is provided by the ligand will be different for both the types of complexes, that is the octahedral complexes as well as for the tetrahedral complexes. What is meant by octahedral complexes? Octahedral complexes means when the 6 ligands will surround the metal, and tetrahedral means when there will be 4 ligands around the metal. Okay, so d orbitals is surely split in both the cases. Okay, but it will be different. How does the splitting will take place in both the cases, that we will look forward for it. But before taking the splitting in the octahedral complexes, I will just take the shapes of the 5d orbitals. Shapes of 5d orbitals. First I will take d xy. This is x-axis, y-axis. In dxy, the lobes of the orbitals will be present in between the x and y-axis. Next, I will take dyz. In this case, the lobes of the orbitals will be in between y and z. Next is dzx. In this case, there will be in present x and z axis. So in these three cases, the lobes are in between the respective axes, that is dxy, dyz and dzx. If we consider the fourth is dx square y square. Now in these cases, the orbital lobes will be present on their respective axis. Look here. The lobes are present on their respective axis. And in the last case also, that is dz square. In z square also, the lobes will be present onto their respective axis. Okay. Sorry, this is y. So the lobes are present onto their respective axis, that is z square. So these are the 5 shapes of the d orbitals. I have explained you these shapes of orbitals. All that was just a revision for you because you all are familiar with this, because we are going to use this concept in the splitting in octahedral as well as in the tetrahedral complexes. So now we come back to our topic. So when the ligands are present around the metal atom, then the ligands will going to degenerate. They will going to break the degeneracy of the d orbitals, and as a result of it, there will be some splitting. So first we will consider the splitting in the octahedral complexes. Splitting in the octahedral complexes. Octahedral complexes, there will be 6 ligands. Now what will happen in the octahedral complexes? 6 ligands will surround the metal atom. When the ligands surround the metal atom, there are some electrons in the ligands as well as the electrons are there with the metal also. So the electrons of the ligand will going to repel the electrons of the metal. Okay. So the electrons of the ligand will going to repel the electrons of the metal which are present in which orbitals? Which are present in the d orbitals. Okay, and as a result of this repulsion, some splitting will occur. So as a result of this repulsion, the splitting of the d orbitals will be there. Splitting of the d orbitals will be there. D orbitals occur. Now, where the repulsion will be more, where the repulsion will be less, how the splitting will occur can be explained as the splitting or the repulsion. The repulsion will be more for those d orbitals which are directed towards the ligand. Those orbitals which are directed towards the ligand will going to experience more repulsion, and since they are experiencing more repulsion, they will experience more of the splitting. Okay, whereas those d orbitals which are not directed towards the ligand, which are far away from the ligands, will experience less repulsion between the electrons of the ligand and the metal, and as a result of which they will experience less splitting. Now two cases are possible from here. Now those of which orbitals will be directed towards the ligands? Those orbitals which are present, whose lobes are present on the axis, whose lobes are present on the axis. Whereas those which orbitals will be away from the ligand and experience less repulsion and less splitting, whose lobes are in between the axis, whose lobes are in between the axis. So here you got two things, that is the six ligands and surround the metal, those five orbitals, d orbitals, are going to experience some of the splitting. Okay, and when they are splitting, they are splitting in the two ways. Those ligands, those orbitals which are directed towards the ligand will going to experience more repulsion, they will have more splitting, and as a result of this, with these will be those orbitals whose lobes are present on the axis. So therefore, whose lobes are present on the axis? Dx square, y square and dz square. Whereas those which are away from the ligands will experience less repulsion and less splitting. And these are those orbitals whose lobes are in between the axis. That includes dxy, dyz and dzx. So when these orbitals, that is dx square, y square and z square, experience more splitting, their energy will going to rise. Okay, whereas these lobes will have less energy. So from here you have you got to know about the theoretical manner how the splitting will occur. Now I am going to show you the proper way in the diagrammatical manner that how the splitting would be there, and you will understand it better by the diagram. Now let this be the energy. Okay, increase in energy. These are the metal d orbitals. Okay, for when they are free, they are not surrounded by any charge. Now when they are surrounded by some of the symmetrical field, then their energy will increase. Okay, as you can see that there is an increase in energy. This is E represents energy here. So when they are surrounded by some of the field, and they are surrounded by the spherical symmetrical field. So when the metals are surrounded by this type of field, their energy will increase. Now further, in presence of ligand, okay, now this represents the in presence of ligand, they will undergo splitting. Okay, in presence of ligand, they will undergo splitting. This is in presence of ligand. So as I told you, they will split. Those orbitals whose lobes were on the axis will move to the higher position because their splitting will be more, so they will have more energy. So these are these two orbitals, and the remaining three orbitals, that is dxy, dyz and dzx, which whose lobes were present in between the axes, were experiencing less of the repulsion, will have lower energy. So this is how the splitting will occur. Now the difference in energy between these two orbitals is represented by this symbol, okay, delta O. I will explain you what does it means. Now further, if I say that this is how the splitting has taken place, okay, so the energy of these lower orbitals are designated as T2G, and these orbitals are designated as EG, okay. T2G includes the 3 degenerate orbitals and EG means the 2 degenerate orbitals, okay, which have been splitted. Earlier they were together, okay, but now in the presence of ligands they have splitted. Now this energy in between these two, the difference in the energy is indicated by delta O, okay, and this is known as crystal field splitting energy or also called as crystal field stabilization energy. Crystal field splitting, or also called as crystal field stabilization energy. Now O. Here the meaning of O is this is for the octahedral complex. This is for the octahedral complex. So when the 5 orbitals they split in the pair of 3 and 2, this is the. Now these orbitals, the T2G orbitals, their energy is being reduced by 2 or by 5. Their energy is reduced by 2 by 5. Or 2 by 5 can be written as 0.4 delta O, and since their energy is reduced, given a negative sign. Whereas Eg, their energy is being increased by 3 out by 5, 3 by 5, or we can also say that their energy is zero point 0.6 delta O. Okay, so earlier the metal d orbitals were having the same energy, that is they were degenerate. Although if you provide some symmetrical field, if some anion is present, then the energy will be raised, but they will not split. But in presence of ligand, what will happen? They will split. They will split into T2G and Eg set. That is the 3 degenerate set of orbitals, and this is the 2 degenerate set of orbitals. The difference in the energy between these orbitals is known as crystal field splitting energy or stabilization energy, given by a short form CFSE. Okay, and here delta means the energy difference and O means O is being designated to make it clear that this is for the octahedral complex. Now what will be the T2G energy? It will be minus zero point 0.4 delta O, and for Eg will be 0.6 delta O plus, because his energy has been increased. So this is how the splitting take place for the octahedral complexes. Okay. So here you got to know how the splitting is taking place. You got some of the things to know, that is T2G, Eg, delta O and their respective energies, as well as CFSE. Now we will take all these things to give the further explanation. CFSE. CFSE means CFSE means crystal field splitting energy or stabilization energy, that is difference between the energy of the T2G and EG set of orbitals. Okay. Now this CFSE depends upon the field of ligand. Field of ligand is again a new thing for you. Some ligands are provide a strong field. Okay, some ligands provide a strong field by splitting, bringing about the splitting of the d orbitals, and some ligands provide a weak field for bringing about the splitting of the d orbitals. Okay, so this CFSE depends upon the field of ligand. So ligands can be strong field ligand or they can be weak field ligand. Now, in order to explain what type of ligand is the strong field or weak field, a spectrochemical series is being given. Spectrochemical series. Spectrochemical series includes the number of ligands, and the ligands are arranged in the way that which ligand is strong and which ligand is weak. So ligands are arranged in the series. Look here, I am writing here the spectrochemical series for you. On this side, I am writing the weak field ligand. So I am going from the weak field ligand to the strong field ligand. Okay. Next ligand is bromo, thiocyanato, chlorido. You just have to keep in mind this spectrochemical series. Okay. This is important. Sulfido, fluorido, hydroxo, oxalato, aqua, ethylene, diamine, tetraacetato, amine, ethane, 1,2-diamine, cyano and carbonyl. These are the strong field ligand. So this series, this spectrochemical series have been is being given consisting of number of ligands arranged from the weak field ligand to the strong field ligand. So when the strong field ligand is present, okay, for if you take any complex in which the strong field ligand is there. So for the strong field ligand, another term arises here is now is P. P is referred to as pairing energy. Pairing energy means the energy required for an electron to get paired up in an orbital. Okay. So when you will go consider the T2G and the EG orbitals, this is the T2G orbital and this is the EG orbital, and if I consider one of the electron, okay, one of the electron entering here. So this electron will paired up with T2G or with an EG is referred to as pairing energy. So for the strong field ligand, the splitting will be more, they will cause more splitting. So for such type of ligands, if we compare the crystal field stabilization energy with the pairing energy, okay, then the crystal field stabilization energy will be less than the pairing energy. The pairing energy is more than the crystal field stabilization energy. So if the crystal field stabilization energy is more, it means that the electron will not jump from the T2G to EG orbitals. Okay, so delta O means the difference between both the orbitals. So if the difference is very high, the electron will not jump. Instead, the electron will going to paired up. So pairing energy is the energy required to pair up. So in case of strong field ligand, what will happen? Strong field ligand, the electron will get paired up in the T2G orbital only. They will not jump, and as a result of which the strong field ligand form low spin complexes. Low spin complexes means the electrons will remain in their T2G orbital. Whereas if you consider a weak field ligand will cause less splitting. So delta O here will be, sorry guys, here it was delta O was more, okay. So delta O was more, and that was the reason that it was not going, okay, and that was pairing up. Here it will be in the thing will be reverse of the strong field ligand. Here the pairing energy will be more than that of the delta O. That is, the difference between T2G and EG is less. Therefore, the electron can easily jump from T2G to EG. So they will form high spin complexes. So they will form high spin complexes. I'll explain you this concept again because it's a little typical concept, but I explain you the way I remember this concept. Okay. Now, just do a quick revision in your mind about what you did for the splitting case. In case of octahedral complexes, it was forming T2G and EG. T2G were on the lower side and EG was on the higher side, and the difference between them was crystal field splitting energy, stabilization energy, which was indicated by delta O. Now this delta O depends upon the field of the ligand. The ligand can be strong field and weak field. Now strong field ligand, when they will provide more field to the metal d orbitals, they will split more. If they split more, it means that the orbitals are moving far apart from each other. Okay, and if they are moving far apart from each other, then what is increasing? The difference between their energy, that is delta O, is increasing. If delta O is increasing, then the other factor will decrease, and the other factor is known as pairing energy. Pairing energy means the energy required to pair. Pairing is coming from the word pair. So energy required for the electron to pair in an orbital. So if delta O is increasing, then surely it is possible that the electron will not jump from D2G to EG. Instead of jumping, the electron will pair itself. Okay. For example, if I consider that, I will take some example also in the next case to explain you this. So this is the low spin complexes. So when the electrons are present in the lower orbital only, that is the T2G orbital, they are known as low spin complexes. Now its opposite will be in case of weak field ligand. In case of weak field ligand, the field provided by the ligand is less, as a result of which the splitting will be less, so splitting energy will be less. So what will be more? The opposite thing, that is the pairing energy will be more. So the electrons will require more energy to pair up. So what they will prefer, instead of pairing up, instead of uh, instead of needing more energy, what they will do, they will going to jump. So they will going to jump from the T2G to the EG, and as a result they form high spin complexes. Okay, so this is the concept of the strong field as well as the weak field, and in order to identify which ligand is strong field and which ligand is weak field, a spectrochemical series is being given to you. Okay, you have to remember this is spectrochemical series. Okay, I'll just give you an example here to explain the concept of the strong field and the weak field ligand. Okay, I'm taking the octahedral complexes only. Strong field ligand, let the ligand be cyanide and cyano. Okay, and weak field ligand, let the weak field ligand be iodo or iodido. Okay, now I'm not drawing all the other stages, I'm directly drawing the stage of T2G and EG. This is T2G and this is EG. Look here, I'm not drawing all the stages, but if you are drawing in the exam, you should draw all the stages. I'm just giving you the general concept. Still down. G. We're going to explain you this and you will understand this, then the tetrahedral complexes will be easy for you. Okay, now as I said that in the strong field ligand there will be the formation of what type of complexes, low spin complexes, because the delta and O will be higher in this case. Now if I consider that if any metal is there, let the metal be M, okay, whose configuration is D4. If any metal I am taking, okay, whose configuration is D4. Now when these 4 electrons come and you have to fill these electrons in these orbitals, what will happen in case of strong field ligand? In case of strong field ligand, 3 electrons will be filled in this manner. Now since in case of strong field ligand, delta O is more than that of the pairing energy. So what will happen? There will be no jumping of the electron from P2G to EG orbital. Instead the electron will going to pair here only. Okay. So what type of configuration you got here now? You got T2G 4 EG 0. T2G4 means it has 4 electrons and EG has 0 electrons. Here also if you take any metal whose configuration was D4, that is the d orbitals were having 4 electrons and you have to fill those electrons in these orbitals, okay, these splitted orbitals or these non-degenerated orbitals. So what we are going to do, if the weak field ligand is there, in case of weak field ligand the pairing energy will be more than that of this. So 3 electrons will be filled in this manner and the fourth electrons, since the pairing energy is more, the more energy will be required to pair the electrons. So why to pair up? What they will do? They will going to transfer the electron from T2G to EG. So the electron will jump from here to here. As a result, the configuration will be T2G 3 EG 1. So here you can see that all the electrons are present in the 3 degenerate orbitals, that is T2G on the lower side only. Therefore, these complexes are known as low spin complexes. Here you can see that electron is present on the 2 degenerate orbitals also on the upper side. Therefore, they are known as high spin complexes. So this is how the splitting occur, and this is the concept of the strong field and the weak field ligand. Okay. Now next I will take the splitting in the tetrahedral complexes. Tetrahedral complexes means the ligands will be surrounded by 4 ligands will surround the metal atom. Okay. So splitting in the tetrahedral complexes. So when the four ligands are there, which are surrounding the metal atom in a tetrahedral manner, the splitting will be inverse of that you have done in the octahedral complexes. Inverse of the octahedral complexes. That is, look here, so this will be the energy thing. These are the d orbitals of the free metal in the presence of spherical symmetrical field. Their energy will rise. But when they split, again they will split into 3 and 2 orbitals, degenerate orbitals, okay? But the splitting will be opposite, means T2G will experience more of the splitting as compared to that of the EG. Now this will be your EG, this is your T2G, okay? According to octahedral, this must be the pattern. But here one difference is that instead of G, only E is there and T2, and G here is replaced by U. Okay, so G means gyrate and U means ungyrate, that you will going to learn in your higher classes. Okay, for here you just have to remember that it will be EU and T2U. Okay, when the splitting occurs. Now let's look at the energy. What will be its CFSE? CFSE is designated as delta T, where T means for the tetrahedral complexes. Now let's consider what will be the energy of these degenerate orbitals. So energy will be minus zero point 0.6 delta T. So energy will be 2 by 5 more by 2 by 5. Okay, so it will be plus delta T. So this is the inverse of octahedral complex. You can remember that this also, or you can remember by this also, that when the ligand approaches the metal, then those orbitals whose lobes are present along the axis will experience less repulsion than those whose lobes are present in between the axis. That's the inverse case of the octahedral complexes. As thus, the splitting will occur and they will form the orbitals which will be in the higher energy level as compared to that of those orbitals whose lobes are present along the axis. So this is the splitting in the tetrahedral complexes. Same concept of strong field as well as weak field is also applicable for the tetrahedral complex, but the condition will be that it's applicable only for those complexes where four ligands are present. Okay, where four ligands are present. So here the crystal field theory is over, but only one thing that is left is the limitation of crystal field theory, because after the crystal field theory, the molecular orbital theory was also given to explain the bonding in the coordination complexes. Although that is not there in your 12th standard, but why the molecular orbital theory was given? Because of the limitation of the crystal field theory. The limitation of the crystal field theory is that crystal field theory doesn't consider the covalent character of bonding, does not give any reference to the covalent character of bonding between metal and ligand, It only considered that the bond is ionic or electrostatic in nature, but no reference was given to the covalent character of bonding between metal and ligand. So here the crystal field theory is being completed. Now next topic that I am going to take is the bonding in metal carbonyls. Okay, this is also an important topic in coordination chemistry. Bonding in metal carbonyls. You are familiar with carbonyls? Carbonyls means CO. It's one of the ligand. Okay, it's a neutral ligand. So when carbonyl is a neutral ligand, then what will happen? The negative dipole will be going to form a bond with the metal atom. But now, how the bonding occur between the metal and carbonyl, that I am going to do here. Now in metal carbonyl, when the bonding takes place between metal and carbonyl, the bonding can be of two types of bonds are formed, sigma bond as well as pi bond. You all are familiar with sigma bond and pi bond. Okay, I'm not explaining you all these things again and again. So you are familiar with the sigma bond and the pi bond. The first bond that is formed is sigma bond, and the next bond that will be formed in case is referred to as pi bond. Okay, so how the bonding takes place? Sigma bond and pi bond. Sigma bond is formed when there is donation of lone pair of electrons from the carbonyl to the metal atom. And pi bond is formed when there is donation of electrons from the filled metal orbitals. Metal orbitals which are being filled by the electrons to the pi anti-bonding orbitals of the carbonyl. Okay, when there is donation of electrons from the filled metal orbitals to the pi anti-bonding orbitals of the carbonyl. Look here, the diagram. These are the orbitals. Now this is the formation of the sigma bond by donation of lone pair of electrons from the carbonyl to this. Now here donation of electron to the pi antibonding orbitals. Okay, from the filled metal orbitals to the pi antibonding orbitals of the carbonyl will result in the formation of the pi bond. So this is how the bonding in metal carbonyls will take place. Next topic is, these are small topics, okay. Next topic is stability of coordination compounds. Coordination compounds, you very well know now, again and again we are discussing the same thing. Coordination compounds will be formed when metal ligand bond will be formed. Okay, when the metal and the ligand form a bond by donation of their electrons. Okay, now this metal ligand bond, the metal ligand bond is very strong. We know that if we take a coordination compound and we are going to provide some energy to this, then the coordination entity will not going to break. We already did this in earlier videos. Okay, so the coordination entity will not break. Okay, so metal and ligand always remain intact, and the stability of the coordination compound depends upon the bond which is present between metal and ligand. Okay, how strong is the bond, that will decide the stability of the coordination compound. So let's take an example. Okay, now this is the metal, four ligands forming a complex. Now the stability for this, the stability constant for this is given as product by reactant. Now this beta here represents the overall stability constant. We have not considered the reaction step by step. So this is known as overall stability constant. Now if we consider this reaction step by step, look here. With one ligand it will react, give Ml. What will be the stability constant? Let stability constant be K1, that is Ml by M12. Next, Ml will going to react with one of the ligand, giving Ml2. Let the stability constant be K2, that will be equal to Ml2 divided by the reactants. What are the reactants? Ml into L. Now, Ml2 will again react with one of the ligand, giving Ml3. What will be the stability constant? This is Ml3 divided by Ml2 and L. Last ml 3 plus L. Finally, we get our product. Okay, ml4 given by K4 ml4 divided by ml3 into L. Now here I have taken the reaction in a but all the steps. Now this K1, K2, K3 and K4 are for the constants for the each step. Therefore they are known as stepwise stability constant. They are known as stepwise stability constant. So I have taken both the constants here, stepwise stability constant as well as overall stability constant. Now there is a relation between stepwise and overall stability constant. I am going to explain you that relation. I am not erasing all the portion because this will be useful for you now. Now the overall stability constant, that is beta, is equal to the product of stepwise stability constant. Okay, I hope you have got this concept. Now the inverse of stepwise stability constant is referred to as instability constant. In case if certain extreme conditions are provided to the coordination compound and the coordination entity breaks off, then the instability constant will be given as the inverse of the stability constant, that is 1 by beta, or if we consider all the steps, then it will be 1 by k for the stepwise stability constant. So this is how we can explain the stability in the coordination compounds. Bonding in metal carbonyls as well as the stepwise stability constant and overall stability constant. Overall, if I say that the stability constant, both are the small topics only. Okay. Now, last topic of coordination chemistry is the applications of the coordination chemistry or applications of the coordination compounds. The first application is they have their biological importance. Yes, they have their biological importance. First, look at the example, chlorophyll. You very well know what is chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is an important pigment required for carrying out photosynthesis procedure. So chlorophyll is also a coordination compound of magnesium metal. Hemoglobin pigment. Yes. Hemoglobin is, what does it has? You know the structure of hemoglobin. Many might have got the answer also. Hemoglobin is also a coordination compound of iron metal. Okay. So coordination compounds have some of their biological importance also. Another example I am giving you, vitamin B12 is also a coordination compound of metal cobalt. Okay. So this is the biological importance of coordination compound. Next is that they are used for medicinal purpose also. Medicinal purpose also. How they are used for medicinal purpose? I give you an example. EDTA. EDTA is a what? A ligand. Okay. So EDTA is used for treating lead poisoning. Similarly, platinum compounds. They are platinum complexes. Okay. So the compounds which have platinum as a metal are used to treat tumors. Tumors can be treated by it. Okay. A third example I'm going to take is catalyst. Coordination compounds are also used as catalyst. For example, the rhodium. Rhodium containing catalyst, rhodium containing coordination compounds. Like this is the example of the rhodium containing coordination compounds. Is being used for hydrogenation of alkene. Is used for hydrogenation of alkenes. This catalyst is given a name. The name of this catalyst is Wilkinson catalyst. Wilkinson catalyst. You might have read it. Okay. Wilkinson catalyst. Next applications. I'll take in the next slide. Fourth application is they are used for treatment of water hardness. Okay, so hard water is treated with this type of complex, and this type of complex, what will happen? It has EDTA. EDTA is a ligand that will going to linked with calcium as well as the magnesium ion. So therefore, and these calcium and the magnesium ions by further chemical methods can be estimated. They are present in what amount? Okay, by chemical methods they can be estimated further. So coordination compounds are used for determining water hardness by using this complex. Okay, and in this complex EDTA is there that will going to link with these metal ions. Now next, they are used in photography also. How they are used in photography is that those films which are being used, you know that when you click a picture, get captured in a form of a film. Okay, and what the photographer does, the photographer clear the films and give you the film. Okay, so these coordination compounds are also used in this film. The developed film that is being developed is being fixed by washing it with hypo. Hypo is Na2S2O3. So the film that is being developed is washed with this hypo, and what does this hypo will do? This hypo will going to dissolve the undecomposed, will dissolve the undecomposed silver bromide. Okay, giving you a silver complex. You will understand it better by looking at this reaction. This is hypo, okay, with AgBr give you a complex. This is the silver complex that you are getting. So when they develop, this is the silver complex that you will get. So when the developed film is washed with hypo, hypo is used for washing the film. Then the dissolved AgBr, it will go into, what will happen when it's washed with hypo, the dissolved AgBr will go into and decompose it, and as a result of which you will get the silver complex. So this is how this is photography also uses the coordination compound. So here we complete the coordination chemistry. Okay, thank you so much.